Hey everyone, this is Richard, CEO and founder of AltFINS. In this video, I'll discuss the state of the crypto markets and go over what may be ahead. Now, for weeks, we have been pounding the table of upcoming crypto rally. We've seen several indications of the price action indicating there's building strength in the market, and channel down breakouts and falling wedge breakouts that were occurring a few weeks ago were indicating that the buyers were overwhelming the sellers for a variety of reasons. And we don't question that, right? When the price is telling us that there is strength in the market, we take advantage of that, and that's what we've done. We published several blogs discussing it. Here's one of them from June 30th that we saw, again, some indications that the breakouts from channel down and falling wedge patterns which are typical trend reversal patterns, were indicating that the period of consolidation was behind us, and then we're up facing some potential rally in the market that could generate 20-50% type of gains. One of the assets that we discussed was ALGO, and in fact, or ALGORAND, and in fact, after that, that price went almost vertical here from the level when we saw the breakout. Call it at 18 cents. It's at 29 cents. So it went up about 50% or so. So there were a number of examples of that. Of course, another one was Bonk, which went just bonkers as well. That's up about 100% since breaking out of its own channel down pattern. We can take a look at that real quick. Right here to check technical analysis. So the breakout from channel down, as you can see, occurred way down here at about 15 cents, and it's not 15 cents, it's 0.000015, and it's basically doubled from that. So naturally, the question comes up, what's ahead? Well, I remain bullish longer term for the remainder of 2025. I think in the second half of 2025, we'll continue to see crypto rally. And the primary reason, I think, fundamentally behind that will be the cuts in interest rates, or the indications and signaling from the central bank, the Fed, that it's ready to cut its interest rates in the US. And primarily also because there's been some slowing indications of slowdown in the economy, and also because the inflation has not been an issue as the Fed feared, relating to the tariffs. There were some fears that the tariffs could push inflation higher, but so far that's not happened. Of course, the tariffs have not been in place for long, so that it could still be a risk, but it seems that the Fed is now acknowledging that the interest rates remain too high and too restrictive. And so as the Fed continues to change its body language around what's ahead in terms of interest rates and becomes more dovish, that could really spark a rally in risk assets. And we've seen that in equities. NASDAQ was hitting all-time highs last week, and that's followed by crypto or digital assets as well, with Bitcoin obviously hitting new all-time highs, right? I think it was around $123,000 that it just hit yesterday, in fact. So, and the altcoins had been rallying even more, right? It's typical. Bitcoin sort of tends to be early and lead the rally, and the altcoins then start catching up. So really, in the last month, Bitcoin is up 12%, Ethereum is up 21%, Ripple is up 37%, BNB more modestly 6%, Solana only 12%. I think there's a lot more upside to Solana. I think it'll probably revisit $185 or $200 level in the next few months. Dogecoin is up only 9% in the last month. Tron is another solid project, up 9% and so on. But we've seen some really high double-digit gainers as well, like Stellar is up 78%, Hedera Hashgraph up 50%, and so on. There's lots of other catalysts beside the Fed cutting rates. Obviously, the crypto adoption, especially in the US, and the regulation is improving. A lot of the traditional brokers like eToro and Robinhood are adding crypto to their asset list as well. There's tokenization of equities happening. There's new ETFs, spot ETFs getting launched and filed for assets like Solana, Litecoin, Hedera Hashgraph, XRP, and others, right? So there's a lot of other catalysts as well that will play out for the rest of this year. Now, what do we do now? Obviously, there's been some hefty gains here, and a lot of assets are very close to at their resistance levels now. If you look at the technical analysis section, you can see in the pattern type, this is where we keep track basically keep track of about 50 different trade setups for some of the top 50 altcoins as well as Bitcoin. And as you can see, we've got some situations where assets are overbought at resistance or approaching resistance. A lot of these are approaching resistance, right? Let's take a look at Litecoin, for example. This one we were bullish on after the breakout from the descending triangle. It's had a nice gain, but it's up against a very stiff resistance area of $100, as well as the 200-day moving average, which is the purple line here. Anytime the horizontal resistance level lines up with the 200-day moving average, which also is a resistance area, it becomes a very stiff resistance zone. So when you see those types of situations, I lighten up on my positions. If I was long here, I would lighten up here, take my profits and wait. And I think a lot of other traders will do the same. Maybe we'll get another pullback here to the support level. So I think that's kind of the playbook now is to wait for some of these to pull back, because longer term, again, I'm very bullish. I want to own these assets, but tactically, shorter term, I want to pick my spots, lighten up when I'm up against a stiff resistance, and maybe add to my position or initiate positions as we pull back to the nearest support level. Now, if you want to look for assets, you can potential trade setups. Obviously, you can do that in the technical analysis, but you can also use the filters here on the screener. Pullback in uptrend is one of my favorites. Right, lots of assets are now in an uptrend, but I want to buy them when they pull back. Buying the dip is a very reasonable strategy and profitable strategy in an uptrend. And I think the market is now entering an uptrend as well. So, here are some assets. This is a preset filter that says, show me all the assets that are in an uptrend. So let's take a look at that. Okay, all of these are in an uptrend on the medium and the long-term basis. I don't pay attention as much to the short-term trend because that changes very quickly. I emphasize especially the medium trend. We can even eliminate the long-term trend from our filter to get more potential candidates for our trade here. And then the other criteria is that it's not overbought, it's in an uptrend, and it's pulled back, right? So let's take a look at some of these charts here. All right, so Syrup Maple Finance, right? It's in an uptrend overall, but it's a nice pullback here. Wow, this looks very interesting now. So where's the nearest support level? I'd say it's somewhere around here, actually. Right. Let's make these smaller. Okay, let's extend the timeline here. Look at that beautiful uptrend, a nice pullback, still above the prior pullback low, right? As long as we stay around above this low, then the uptrend is intact, right? So where's the potential? The potential support area is probably around here where we are now, in fact, right? Because the prior, makes sense, about 45 cents. The prior resistance area here and here, once broken, becomes support, right? And that support was tested here. So I'd say in the 40 to 45 cents area, we're in support zone where I would be interested in buying this asset on the next upswing. Okay, so this looks really interesting. So that's the strategy, is to find assets that are in an uptrend, have pulled back, and then I look for an ideal entry point around a support. And that support is oftentimes the prior resistance. That's a concept known as polarity. Once a resistance level has been broken, it becomes the support level, and vice versa. If a support level is broken, it becomes a resistance level, right? So this resistance level here was broken. It's become a support level now and a good potential entry area for that pullback in uptrend trade. So again, that's a good preset filter right here. Now, the other thing to keep an eye on is the overbought situations or indications that a lot of these assets currently are overbought, especially if they're overbought at resistance. That's a warning sign and a potential indication that the traders are going to be taking their profits, and the rally may pause at a minimum, maybe even pull back. I think it will be a shallow pullback. I think there's going to be still a lot of FOMO here as the prices pull back. I think there's a lot of buyers who have missed this run, and they'll be eager to buy it up. So, but to keep an eye on overbought situations, you can look at, oh, my bad. Let's go back here. You want to take a look at the momentum tab here. And I pay attention especially to the RSI. Some of the other momentum indicators are here, stochastic, Williams, and so on. But I especially focus on the RSI-14. As you can see, it says here that Bitcoin is overbought, Ethereum is overbought. What does that mean, RSI-14 overbought? Let's actually add the value, RSI value here to the table so you can see. Okay, so if I move this over here, oops, I just changed the ranking. Okay, let's again move it back here. So as you can see, when RSI is a relative strength indicator. It ranges from 0 to 100. Anytime it's above 70, it means that it's overbought, meaning that it's likely to pull back in the near term. And we've seen that with Bitcoin, right? I mean, it got really overbought as it reached 223 new all-time high, right? That was, RSI got to 76, and now we're seeing a pullback. Now, again, I don't think it'll be a very deep pullback. But I don't want to be buying these assets right when they're just getting overbought at 70, 75, 80. I mean, look at XRPs at 80 RSI. I'm not going to be buying it, initiating new positions. Now, if you're in that position, you might be thinking about lightening up a bit, and then maybe re-entering. But for a new position, I prefer not to be buying assets that are overbought with RSI over 70, right? So you could create a filter that says, show me all the assets that are overbought. Okay. maybe they're on your watch list, maybe they're in your portfolio. If you connect AltFINS platform to your Binance or Kraken or Coinbase account, you'll actually be able to filter based on your portfolio as well. Okay, and you'll be able to tell which assets in my portfolio are overbought or which assets on my list are overbought right here. These are assets on my watch list that are overbought. So I might be thinking about lightening up or exiting that position. Or we can do the opposite. Let's find assets that are not overbought, okay? So RSI is below, or here, not overbought. So below 70. Remove the prior filter, add this filter. So there are 41 assets that are not overbought at the moment based on the RSI-14. So these could be also potential buying opportunities. Maybe I can add another criteria to say that I want these assets to be in an uptrend. Okay, uptrend on a medium-term basis. So now I'm down from 41 to 14 assets. So these are assets that are in an uptrend but are not overbought. Okay, these are interesting potential buying opportunities as well. BNB, Solana, Tron, Hyperliquid, Chainlink, and so on. So that's the other thing to keep an eye on, is on the RSI indicator. And now, the other scenario is that we have a very shallow pullback, and then we start breaking back up about, above those levels, right? Let's take a look at what I mean. Let's open up a new tab here. The best way to keep an eye on sort of these pullbacks and re-breaks, right? That would indicate that the rally is prepared to continue, that the buyers have reloaded here and are eager to buy any kind of shallow dip. A good strategy or a filter for that is the new local high. You can use a 5 period, 10 period, even longer periods, but this basically, let's use a 10 period. Okay, so there's about 50 of these. Okay, and let me show you what that looks like. Okay, so here's SUI, brief pullback and rebroke above the prior local high and just never looked back. Here's another one, Tau, bit tensor, right? As well. So these are interesting situations. So here's one, say it's pulled back, now it's broken back above that prior high. So it's basically making a new local high. This is what this filter is about. Which assets are making new local highs? They're not all-time highs, but they're local highs, right? And when that happens, like this Qcoin token, we could see a pretty wicked run after that. And what I like about all of these, they're trading above the 200-day moving average, which is in the red line here, and as well as the 100-day moving average. But that's also an indication of uptrend. But we can confirm that by going to the trend tab here as well, right? Most of these are in an uptrend. We can continue to edit this filter as well to say, show me all the assets, or filter these down, these 30 of these assets, to only those that are in an uptrend. Now we're down to 18, okay? So these are also interesting situations of shallow pullback and a re-break above the prior high. Also, when there's really bullish markets like we have now, and like what we had back in November or December, if you remember, those are really around the U.S. elections. The market just went nuts. When we have such strong markets, the pullbacks are very shallow, and then the prices re-break the prior high and continue their run. And they can stay overbought actually for a long time in really bullish times. So, in terms of, like I said, longer term upside, let's take a look at one other thing, which is, where are we relative to the all-time highs. So all-time percentage down, how far are we from the all-time highs, and how far are we from 52-week highs? And as you'll see, oops, not above, my bad, not above but below, down from 52-week high. Okay, and as you see in these two columns, Bitcoin obviously is very close to its all-time high right now, but most of the other altcoins are far below their all-time highs. So the altcoin season still has a lot of legs. There's still a lot of innings left in the altcoin season. We're just getting started. There's still easy 50-100% gains if we're right about the altcoin season. So let's take a look at Ethereum. It's still down 37% from all-time high, 25% even from the recent 52-week high, right? XRP is still down 14% from the recent 52-week high. Solana down 45% from just the 52-week high. Dogecoin down 60% from the recent 52-week high. So we've got a lot of room for upside for a lot of the altcoins here. Now, if you're looking for assets that are hitting all-time highs, that's another easy filter here on the strategy blocks. Here it says within 5% of all-time high. There's other variations of that filter. Show me assets that are within the 5% all-time high, are not overbought. By the way, you can also use the Copilot for a lot of these as well to say, if we start anew, to say, show me assets that are near their all-time high, okay? And so if you can't find a filter in the preset filters, use the AI Copilot as well. Okay, so here's the result. Assets that are less than 1% from their all-time highs. So these are really just hitting all-time highs as we speak. Okay. Useless. This coin's called useless. Oh, straightforward. All right, everyone. Well, so that wraps it up for me again. In summary, I'm still bullish on the current rally. I don't think this is the end. I don't think that this is, a bounce in the bear market. I think this is something more substantial, more profound in terms of the sustainability of the bull run. I could be wrong, certainly, but one has to have an opinion about the market direction overall. And based on that, I'm looking for some tactical entry exit points, using various screens here for a pullback in an uptrend, avoiding situations where the price is way overbought, right, with the RSI indicator. So I hope this has been helpful. I invite you to also to join our VIP Telegram group, reserved for the annual and lifetime members. I think it's well worth the money and your time. There's a lot of excellent discussions of trade setups in there as well. Thank you very much for listening, and good luck trading.